Hi, my name is Justin Ford. I'm finishing up my Instructor 1 course. This is going to be my 2-hour presentation. I've been given the topic ladder operations. So this will be my classroom. I'm going to go ahead and start my setup and we'll go from there. All right, I've set this classroom up in an orientation where the students can easily watch the slideshow and take notes while also creating an environment where we can discuss different parts of the class easier. At this point, I'm going to double check that the temperature in the room is adequate, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on some extra lights to help the lighting. Now that the classroom is set up, I'm going to move out to where we're going to do our practical skills and get that set up for the class. This is where the practical skills for our class today are going to be held. We're going to do ladder operations. It's going to include ladder carries, ladder raises, and also the proper cleaning and inspection skills of a ladder in the fire service. We're going to be doing fire carries outside on a patio, and then we're going to be doing fire raises up onto our ladder stop up on the wall there. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the PPE required for this, which is going to be pants, a jacket, closed-toed steel boots, and gloves and a helmet. Eye protection is going to be used during the entire process, and I'm going to go get that stuff set up. Alrighty, we have all of our proper PPE available at this time. We have the ladder that we're going to be using for this testing. This is a 24-foot extension ladder. We're going to go ahead, go back inside. We're going to bring the class in after double checking all our electronic devices are working for the class so we can be least distracting as possible. And we'll get started with our class. All right, I'm going to get the class and I'm going to have them sign in, and I have a paper there that will cover the basics of our class, and we'll do an introduction. We'll go ahead and get our seats and we'll start class up. So we'll start with our training records paper on this. Just put your name on this line and I'll fill out everything else. Then just each one you take one line. Also on the students' table, I'll be putting an objective list of what we're going to cover for class. to our class on ground ladders. This will be pulled from the Firefighters Essential 7th edition. This is the latest edition of ISFA's Fire, Ladder, and Operations. I'm Justin. I'm a firefighter for the Masonic Fire Department. I've been a firefighter for 6 years between 2 departments at this time, and this is one of the similar classes I took when going through Fire 1 and 2. Today's objectives list is on your table if you want to look at it throughout this. We're going to talk about the process of cleaning ladders, the practice of using ladders, the process of carrying ladders. We're going to talk about the different types of ladders. We're going to talk about placing ground ladders. We're going to talk about ways that we can secure and hold ground ladders. Also, raising and lowering ground ladders. And we'll be doing skills with 2 firefighters, carry and raise at the end, followed with a practical test on cleaning, inspection, and maintenance of a ground ladder. So how we'll do class is for the first section, we're going to have a slideshow. I'm going to try to make it as painless as possible. So we're going to take some breaks through it, let you stretch your legs, get a drink if you need. So the first part will be touching, starts with identifying parts of a ladder. So on a ladder, what are some parts that we could just think of off the top of our head? I know you guys are introduction to firefighters, just things you might think of right off the bat that are on a ladder. We have rungs. We have the main beams, and we're going to hold the rungs. We got the bed section, also known as the base or the main section. The butt of the ladder is going to be what has the feet on it that we're going to use to actually place on the ground. This can also be called spurs. On some ladders it will have 2 spikes rather than a actual foot plate. On different ladders, we have extension ladders, so they'll have a 2-part section to them. We'll have fly 1 and fly 2. And later on we'll talk about roof ladders that have hooks that will actually attach to the peak of a roof. The fly sections of the ladder, like I talked about earlier, are only on our extension ladders. They're going to be these main pieces. This will be your main portion of the ladder that has the feet on it. This will be your first fly, and will be the actual extension part of the ladder. Some ladders actually have a 3-fly section, so this will have a secondary fly that goes up as well. A little less common in our fire department. Somewhere maybe like New York, they would use it a little bit more. Our normal length of these is going to be a 24-foot and also 35-foot. We don't use it as often, but we have it. A 24-foot ladder is the ladder we'll be using for our practical skills today. Your guides on the ladder are going to be the rails on an extension ladder that allows them to stay together so they don't fall apart when you're actually sliding them up. So they're going to be rails on the edges of the ladder. This slides into this piece. So it's actually what connects them. Ladder paws, or dogs sometimes they call them, are on an extension ladder. They're the pieces that are actually going to clip each section into place, each rung into place when extending. You'll see them right here. If you ever heard an extension ladder go up and it makes like a clink, 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 those are the paws locking into place every single time. The halyard is the rope section of an extension ladder that allows you to actually pull from a ground level and extend it higher than you can reach. We'll talk about that later when we get through it. It's also sometimes called a fly rope. A heat sensor is on all tested firefighter ladders. This is going to be a sticker usually found on the main beam, not on the fly, and it will show you a color. It'll tell you what color it needs to be. It will either be clear or be red, and it will change colors if the ladder experiences too much heat. We'll talk about it later, but an actual heat change sticker is an immediate out of service. So we're going to take those out of service. These are mostly aluminum ladders. In the fire service, they actually still do use wooden ladders. So those are another one that if they experience too much heat, they can actually break under lower loads. The pulley, we talked about the halyard earlier. The pulley is going to be on the main beam section. It's going to be where your halyard goes up and connects at the top, so you can pull the second fly up. And then we talked about the rungs earlier. Those are going to be each individual step through the ladder. The tip is obviously just the top of the ladder. Sometimes it'll be just two main square tops, or on a roof ladder it'll have two hooks, and like I talked about earlier, they hinge out and turn to hook on the peak of the roof if you're working on roof operations. So a single fly ladder, we touched on just slightly before, is going to be just a one fly main beam ladder. This is usually a 12-foot, sometimes an 18-foot, but usually a 12-foot section that would not have an extension section to it. You're just going to put it up against the wall, and that's all you have. So what components does an extension ladder have that a single or roof ladder does not have? So, it's missing flies. What piece did we talk about that help keep them together? It has rails. So we're missing rails because there's no need for a second fly to roll on it. If it doesn't need a second fly, we're not in need of the rope section. Does anyone remember what that's called? Halyard. Yep. And without a halyard, we're not going to have a pulley system. So with that, we're going to talk about ladder types. So the types of ladders we use. So a roof ladder is considered a single ladder. It's a single fly ladder. It's just a specific type that has these hooks. I was talking about them earlier. These are the hooks right here, circled with yellow. This should be if we're working on a roof. So we don't actually need to climb it. We're going to hook onto the top of the roof, and we can use it as basically as stairs on the top of the roof here. So the hooks on a single ladder, roof ladder, look like that. A regular single ladder is just going to look like this on the left side. One fly, sometimes doesn't even have feet, just has a butt on it, two spikes on the bottom. That's a 14-foot. And you can see the firefighter there. He's showing the appropriate manner of finding the right angle. We're going to stick our feet on underneath, our toes underneath the bottom rung. We're going to stick our hands out, and we want the tips of our fingers touching one rung. This is regular ladder angles. So we'll talk about rescue angles later on. Be slightly different. But this is if you're trying to make it to a roof. You're not going to carry anyone down from this, you're just climbing straight by yourself. So we talked about extension ladder a little bit. This is a 3-fly extension ladder. It's a 35-foot probably. I can't see the side of it here. But this is going to be basically, if we're trying to get onto a 3rd story and we can't get a ladder truck in here, we're going to put this up. We can go higher than that, but you know, it's less common. So in the fire service, we're making sure we're using ladders that have been properly tested. We're making sure that these are, I think we test them yearly, but also we want to do inspections after and before each use. So we'll touch on that later a little bit more, but just to make sure you remember that for the practical later. So our single ladder is sometimes called a wall ladder or just a straight ladder. One section, it's a non-fly, it's a fixed ladder. So a single ladder is used primarily for quick access of windows and 1st floor operations when we're wanting quick access. This is never really a 2-person thing. One person should be able to throw a 12-foot or a 14-foot quickly to do things like vent, enter, isolate, search operations, things like that. This should be very quick. The lengths vary. Technically, they can go up to 32 feet. Rarely do we ever see that. Common lengths are 12 to 24 foot single ladders. Roof ladders, similar, common 12 to 24. This is going to help prevent slipping on roofs, and it distributes the firefighter's weight. So when we have fire underneath the roof in the attic section, these are fires that can get super hot, super quick, and they're going to cause problems for the strength of the roof. So spreading out our weight is a main priority. Extension ladders can go all the way up to 39 foot. Again, our common full length ones are 35 foot, and these can be adjusted. So some people think a 24 foot might be a little too much for a certain operation, maybe a 1st floor. This can also be a 12-foot ladder whenever you have it fully collapsed. So that's important to remember. So with this being said, we're going to talk about the contrast of using different types of ladders for different operations. So if we're using a single ladder, what hospital operations are we doing? We're trying to do what type of operations?
1st floor windows.
1st floor windows, or even 2nd floor rapid operations. So just remember, single ladders are really going to be quick ladders. You can throw them by yourself, you can throw them quickly, and you can use them for a lot of things. Extension ladders, if I'm going to the back of the truck and pulling a 24-foot ladder, I'm probably thinking I'm going to go to what floor? 2nd floor. 2nd floor. We're thinking we're going to probably be searching 2nd floor. Again, we'll talk about it later in our skills testing. We'll do 2 firefighter throws, but in real life scenario, this is going to be a single firefighter should be throwing a 24-foot ladder most of the time. If we have extra hands, that's fine, but you should be confident with throwing a 24-foot ladder by yourself. If we're using a roof ladder, what are we probably doing?
Distributing the weight on the roof, avoiding the heat damage in the roof.
Yeah, we're doing roof operations. So if we're on roof operations that we could be considering is rescue in certain circumstances off roofs. A main one for us is going to be ventilation. So vertical ventilation, when we're trying to get massive amounts of heat to come up through the roof, we're going to be cutting a hole in the roof, and we want to make sure we have a good stable foundation on the roof when we're doing this. These ladders are also found on our ladder truck about halfway up the last fly. So when we're going up onto a roof, this is something that you're going to grab off that and just bring with you every time. That's a safety protocol. So we want to make sure we're following our SOGs and SOPs, which is our standard operating guidelines, standard operating procedures for your fire department and area. So what type of ladder lengths are commonly used? We kind of touched on this a little bit. If we're talking about a single fly, we talked about, do you guys remember what was it?
12 foot.
12 foot. 12 foot's one of our main lengths. There was one other kind of main one that we used. Do you guys remember? 14 foot. Yep. If we're using an extension ladder, we're looking at normal length being 24 foot going up to 32. We have 35 and 39 foot. 35 is going to be kind of our normal, but anywhere in that 30 range is going to be kind of our longer length of extension ladders. Roof ladders, commonly shorter. I have seen 10 foot, but the normal length is going to be 12 to 14 foot. We don't want anything long. We have a lot of short peaks on roofs inside the city, so you don't want to be hanging off the end because it could cause kind of a weight shift in different parts of it. So, so next we're going to talk about cleaning and maintenance of our ladders. This is a huge thing that we have to focus on in the fire service because ladders are similar to, I've been told this and I've seen it before, similar to a measuring tape. If you think about a measuring tape and you're pushing a measuring tape out, you can get a lot of length and strength out of it. But as soon as one simple thing breaks or one warp in it or anything, you have a complete collapse. So that more is on a ladder truck, but ground ladders are the same. Any slight warpage, any slight cracks, any overheat, any quick drops onto it, any shock loads, are all damage that can cause failure later on much easier. So we're going to talk about cleaning, inspecting, and maintaining a ground ladder. So fire service ground ladders must be able to withstand a ton of abuse. So we got sudden overloads. That's going to be if somebody falls on this ladder, they need to be able to hit and hold their weight. High temperatures, falling objects. So with this, we want to make sure we're cleaning and inspecting them well. And to go over that, we're going to talk about the parts of the ladder and how we clean them. Standard guideline is just follow your SOPs. So your standard operating procedure is going to be different for each fire department. For us, we're going to make sure any use we use them, we're going to go over them, make sure we're covering every part of them, looking for wears, bends, heat changes on the sticker, frayed ropes on our halyard, pulleys that are not easily spinning. And then if we do find any wear, we want to make sure we're finding the cause of the wear and write that in our logbook at work when we take it out of service. This is another thing that we do an inspection weekly of our full truck. We have a daily inspection, it's a little less in depth. Weekly, this is showing a monthly. Every month you should get your ladders out, you should clean them, you should inspect them, you should look over them, making sure everything's good. Making sure the rungs have no damage or wear. Make sure the rungs are tight. We're going to grab the rungs and spin them. We're going to make sure any bolts or rivets are tight. Make sure nothing's loose on there. All the welds where especially on the extension ladders where the rails are, these are going to be welded on. We want to make sure there's no cracks, no wears, no broken parts of it. We can have even worn areas caused by just driving and the vibration. The rails on the side can cause heat sensor stickers on there. If you do have wooden ladders, which is uncommon around where we are, it's definitely common in some of the larger cities where they have a lot more ladders or keeping older ladders. We want to make sure the bolts are tight, but we want to make sure that we're not over tightening it. On a wooden ladder, you can crush and break down the wood on it and cause unintentional wear just by trying to tighten it up. Here's that sticker for you. Heat sensor on metal and fiberglass ladders. We want to make sure we're looking at them all the time. Any use we use, any use before and after, making sure the color has not changed on them. We covered that just a second ago, the pieces of the ladder that we're going to make sure are secure and good use. If the heat sensor goes bad or you're past the expiration date, we're going to make sure we're replacing it. If it does swap over colors, we're going to get it inspected, and then after that we're also going to change the heat sensor speakers. Again, making sure bolts are tight but not too tight, especially on wooden ladders. So this is another one that we're going to make sure we're really good on. If any ladder comes in contact with direct flames, this has got to be taken out of service at that point. We got to make sure we're removing it from service and testing it, because this is massive amounts of heat coming out of, especially a second floor fire where we have maybe an extension ladder. We can't see the tip. Once we get up there, there's flames on it. We can have a lot of heat go onto us. And these are mostly aluminum ladders, so the heat on them is going to be very damaging. Again, if any damage is found, we're going to make sure we take it out of service immediately, write it in our logbook, and have it tested. We're going to make sure we're not peeling off any warning stickers or warning labels. This is something that in the fire service, I'm not going to say it doesn't, people pull off stickers. We got to make sure we have those warning labels on, mostly for insurance purposes and things, but we got to make sure we're following the guidelines of each ladder, make sure we're following the factory's recommendation. So ladder markings. We're going to find multiple ladder markings, the designated length found, usually a sticker at the bottom of the bottom of the ladder. This is easy for us to look at when we open up the back of our trucks. In our trucks, they are actually slid into the trucks, so you can quickly recognize what size ladder you're pulling out, so you're just not pulling out a bunch of them. Manufacturer's nameplate, we're going to find that on the ladder, showing who manufactured it and its guidelines for cleaning, inspection, and different things. We got the inventory number on this. We want to make sure we have reflective tape on it, or white tip, and we want to make sure we have a balance point stripe. This is going to be about halfway down the ladder, a little closer to one side on an extension ladder. It's going to show us our halfway point to where if we're grabbing a ladder quickly by ourselves, we can throw it on our shoulder and get to where we need to be fast, so we know a balance point. If you pick it up too far on one side, you're just going to be fiddling with it, and we want to make sure we're not doing that. Wood ladders, sometimes the tips are painted. We want to make sure we're not painting these. These can conceal damage from the wood. Also, we want to make sure we're not concealing damage with paint. That's easy to be done, just thinking you're fixing the look of something. If there's any dents on it, we want to make sure we're having it tested properly. Ladder labels, here we see manufacturer certification labels. Hazard labels, this is going to show us if we're able to use it as where there's electricity. Most all of our lower ladders obviously are conductive, so we're going to make sure we're always looking for electrical hazards. That's going to be a main one to remember during your practical test. Anytime you're using a ladder overhead, electrical hazards is something that you just verbalize. Ladder positioning labels. This is going to show us which side faces out. Flies are on the outside, so we want to make sure that sometimes we throw a ladder down, we think, oh, it'll be fine, and we look up, it's on the wrong side. We want to make sure we're putting it the right way. It's made to hold the load more one way than our heat sensing labels. Inspecting metal ladders, we want to make sure evidence of high heat conditions, corrosion, rust, loose rivets, fasteners, loose rungs, cracks, dry rot on the halyard, and non-spinning pulleys. Fiberglass, same thing. We're going to make sure we're looking through. In fiberglass, it's a little bit more common to maybe find chips. We're going to make sure we're documenting that properly. Ladders with wooden components, similar situation. We're going to look at all the stuff we just did before, but we're going to also look for opening of varnish, dark streaks on the wood. Varnish on there is going to change with high heat conditions, so it's a little easier to see. Marred wood, cracks, splinters. We want to make sure the rungs are smooth. Any water damage on these, any time that a natural fiber or a natural material is exposed to water, we can have rotting, we can have dry rot, we can have mold. These are all things we will look for. So if we're finding any indication of damage on a wood ladder, this means for us to remove from service immediately and have it tested. Taking a ladder out of service is really going to be your first. If you see any damage, just take it out of service. You're going to, most of the time, you're going to be told that you did the right thing. So. Making sure in our inspection we're looking at the pause. Similarly, we're making sure the halyard cable is good, pull is good, and the guides are good. So the inspection requirements for different types of ladders. What's one thing we're going to look for on a wooden ladder that we might not look for on a metal ladder? Wood rot. Yep. Damage to the wood. Any sort of water damage, splintering, cracks that are more likely to happen to the wood.
Dark varnish.
Dark varnish going to show that it's been overheated probably. With this, we need to remember that if we're dropping stuff and the tool falls on a aluminum ladder, usually you can have it inspected back and service pretty quick. If it falls on a aluminum ladder, it's going to damage the fibers really quickly. So service testing ladders. So before these are placed in service, we're going to have them tested. We're going to have these annually tested every year by a designated department. We're not going to have it done by ourselves, usually unless we have someone who's in that field. And then any exposure to rough treatment or high heat, we're going to make sure we do that. So we're going to follow our NFPA standard 1932 when it comes to testing and servicing ground ladders. You can find that on NFPA operations list. Ladder cleaning. Regular and proper ladder cleaning is essential for our ladders. We want to make sure we're taking off dirt, debris, and they collect that may hinder different aspects of your ladder. Ladders should be cleaned after every use, cleaned by your cleaning guidelines. This is usually use a soft bristle brush and warm water or a mild detergent. And a lot of our surface, a soft bristle brush, and mild detergent is how you clean most things. Want to make sure we're letting it air dry, removing any tar, oil, greasy residue. We're lubricating the ladder appropriately and following our SOPs. We're going to make sure we're wiping this dry and letting it air dry before we put it back in our storage location. So how often should ladders be cleaned?
At least once a month and every time you use them.
Try to get it done once a month at least if they're not used, and every time you use it. Good. Ladder maintenance, we already kind of touched on that. Again, keeping ladders free of moistures, storing ladders in an area away from vehicle exhaust and engine heat. This is a little difficult for some situations, but we're going to try our best on it. We want to make sure they're not stored in an area where they're supposed to weather, and we're going to make sure paint for purposes of identification or visibility. Only things only used for that. So we already touched on this. What are the general maintenance requirements? We're going to make sure we're cleaning and inspecting them and following our SOPs. That finishes up our first section. We're going to take a 5-minute break. You can use the restroom or get a drink, and we'll come back to class after that. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start back up. We're going to finish up the slideshow in this portion of the class, and then we're going to talk about our practical skills. We're going to take our written test, and then we're going to do our practical skills testing. So we're going to talk about describing safe practices while using ground ladders. We're going to talk about carefully and safely carrying ladders, raising ladders, lowering ladders, working around and on ladders. We want to make sure we're developing these good habits early, because these are things that you can easily get out of hand. Make sure you're always raising it in the appropriate way. Make sure you're not hurting yourself on the fire grounds. We want to use our leg muscles, not our back or arms when lifting the ladder. It's kind of an odd way of doing it when you start to try to do it for the first time, but you get the hang of it pretty quickly. We use the adequate number of firefighters to carry. We want to make sure we're not using it anywhere near electrical wires, preferably no closer than 10 feet. We want to make sure we're securing the tip, anchoring the foot. We'll talk about different ways of doing that later. We're making sure the feet, the paws, the rungs, the hooks, everything that can move, we're going to make sure it's secured when we're using it. Making sure the ladder is stable, using caution when moving ladders, and using it, and climbing it smoothly and having a nice rhythm. Never overloading the ladder, making sure we're looking at the manufacturer's expectations on weights on the ladders. Making sure we're using a ladder belt when we need to. This is going to be a belt that wraps around you and hooks onto a ladder, mostly used on a actual ladder truck operations when we're reaching those 100, 104 foot sections. We already talked about most of this, inspecting for damage, securing. So ladders that come in contact with power sources can definitely have major consequences. If we're going to get close, we feel like a ladder's falling towards an electrical line, the main power line, anything like that, we're just going to let the ladder loose. We want to make sure we're getting away from it. If you're in contact, when this comes in contact with a high voltage line, you're going to get electrocuted. It will happen. So just do not try to save it if you think something like that's going to happen. Sliding down the ladder, either feet first or head first, even in an emergency, is unsafe and may result in serious injuries or death. There is very few times that sliding down the ladder is at all acceptable, and in your written testing, it's never acceptable. So if sliding down a ladder is an answer on a test, it's not right. Only possible situation is an emergency life-saving operations. If you're in a flashover or a rollover situation on the second story, doing a head dive slide on the ladder is sometimes acceptable, knowing that there could be death or injuries happening with it. We want to make sure we're safe when lifting and lowering the ladder, moving in a controlled manner, working as a team, having the correct number of firefighters, bending the knees and using the legs in our lifts, lifting to the right height, and always knowing our limitations. So we're just going to talk about this guidelines, 10 guidelines we're going to follow. If you guys have any, you can throw it out. We want to make sure, how are we lifting it?
Back straight using our arm and legs.
We're going to be using our legs on a ladder lift. We're not going to be overusing our arms on this. We're going to make sure that if we're near electrical operations, we are
At least 10 feet away.
at least 10 feet. Our first priority on those fire scenes is getting an electrical shut off, because we're with water and aluminum tools, we have a lot of conductive things. When are we testing this and inspecting it when using them?
Monthly and annually and after use.
Yep.
The right angle.
Using the right angle, making sure we have the right ladder, making sure the uses of the ladder are proper. It's easy to grab a straight ladder or a one fly section ladder when you're thinking about going up on the roof. Realize it doesn't have the hooks on it. You want to make sure you're looking over it well. Avoiding electrical hazards is going to be the number one thing we're going to be really careful on with ladders. Any overhead obstructions or electrical poles, we're going to be just ultra careful with this. All ladders will conduct electricity, especially when wet. This is including wooden ladders. So a wooden ladder, it will conduct electricity. There's lacquer on it. There's water usually on a fire scene. There's metal components to a wooden ladder. Sometimes on wooden ladders they have a single high gauge wire, or I guess low gauge wire, heavy wire that goes down the side. That is for extra reinforcement, so that can be also a hazard for electrical conduction. Positions of the flies, we're going to make sure we're using it to the designated orientation. For wooden ladders, this is going to be a regular fly-in operation, so fly is in. That's the second section of the ladder. You can see on the wooden one, the second section is on the back of the ladder. On a metal ladder, the second section is on the outside of the ladder. It's going to be a fly out. Regularly at our department, we're using only aluminum ladders, so this is always a fly out. The halyard is the rope holding the flies, to use to raise the flies, and it's also a secondary stopper if something happens. Once we get it to the height we want, we're tying off the rest of the halyard rope onto a rung, and if something were to happen, it could be a secondary stopper. So we're going to make sure we're really working hard on that to make sure that's always tied off on the scene. Sometimes it's hard to do, but it's going to be one of our priorities. I have a rope that later on we're going to talk about the halyard knot, and we'll use that in our testing. So how can we avoid electrical hazards when raising a ladder? And this is just kind of a discussion question. So when we're raising a ladder, we would think of a wall. Let's say this wall right here. Your normal raise is going to be somebody's either butting the ladder or butting it up against the wall, and we're using our hand over hand method. So we're raising the ladder up against it. With this method though, you reach out the farthest possible away from the structure. So if we have a line of wires right here, instead of doing it like that, what's a different way we may be able to do it that will keep it closer to the building?
Raising the ladder sideways.
We can raise the ladder sideways. With a two-person method, even a one-person method sometimes, but we'll raise it up. We can raise it up right against the building. We'll raise it up, we'll turn it up against the building, and then we'll lift up the bottom and move it out to the appropriate. We're already going to lift up the bottom and move it out to get the right angle. So either way, it's not a big problem. So how should the flies on a metal ladder or a fiberglass ladder be positioned? We talked about the difference between a wooden and a metal ladder.
Fly out.
Fly out, making sure that it flies out. The process of carrying a ladder. This is objective 5 on our list. Firefighters must be able to safely carry ladders, but we also need to be able to do this in a quick, orderly fashion. Ground ladders are usually used in operations where rapid movements are needed, but we want to make sure we're doing this in a safe and effective manner. Removing the ladders from apparatuses need to be a regular operation for us so we feel comfortable with doing it. And we want to make sure that we're comfortable with throwing ladders. This is not always a regular thing with some departments. They don't do it a ton, and then when they need it, they're not proficient on it. Aerial operations, for that we're going to talk about probably using an aerial truck on this. 3 to 4 firefighters are going to be required for this. Our ladder truck at the Summit is about 104 foot from butt to tip. That is also about 9.5 feet off the ground where it starts. So we can get about 107 feet straight up, basically, if we need. So we're making sure our ability to climb this ladder is normal. We want to make sure we can not only climb it, but carry tools up it. We want to make sure we can work off of it. We want to make sure we can do patient rescue operations off of it, but also water operations. Mostly off the ladder, we're using it for water operations. We have a water cannon off the top that we can flow directly over a structure, usually like into an upper floor or into a roof hole. So we want to make sure we're proficient on this and we have the right amount of people. For written test purposes, Incident Command or IC or our supervisor usually are going to determine where they want ladder placement, but you must be able to select on your own where these ladders should be going. For us, we're talking about an engineer is most likely going to be throwing ladders on a fire. If we have a second story to a building that has a fire, there should be ladders around on all sides of the building in case we have people on the second floor. Environment inside changes, we want to make sure we're prepared to move people out of a window. These are kind of just designated lengths for stuff that we regularly use. First, on a 1-story roof, we're going to be using a 16 to 20 foot ladder. Second story window, 20 to 28 foot ladder. Second story floor, 28 to 35 foot. Third story window, 40 to 50 foot. And 4-story roof, 50 and over. So for those, we're going to be using a ladder truck when we get up that high, usually. We can throw it that high, but it's not as common for us. Selecting the correct ladder. There's been a couple times where we've had to throw ladders on a fire and you pull the wrong ladder, make it to the back, and you're thinking I'm 2 foot shy of the window, and you just wish you would have gone through the truck a little bit better and you would have known the ladder that you were grabbing. I know on a recent fire I had even thrown a short ladder on a fire, and it's one of those things that it's not good to do, and we want to make sure we're preparing ourselves for these situations. There's also different types of operations we're going to do on the ladder. Working off the roof is just going to be a straight ladder operation. I talked about earlier, not very much of an angle. It's going to be straight up, and we're going to want either 2 or 3 rungs above the tip of the roof. This is helping us get down off the roof, but also for stability purposes. If we're doing a working ladder angle or a beside the window ladder angle, this is going to be usually up at the tip on either side, up on the very top of the window, and this is going to allow us to do a leg lock where we're sticking our leg through the rung and hooking ourselves in, and we can work off of it. If we need to swing an axe off outside or anything. You want to be able to reach the very top of the window. Rescue operations, we're going to make sure we're under the window. That is important. We're below the window. This isn't something that's negotiable at all. If you're trying to get a 300-pound person up and over a windowsill in the first place, it's extremely hard. If you've got a 1 foot rung on top of that, almost impossible. This is most likely going to start out as a 2 firefighter operation to get the person out. So we're hoping more people come and help, but you want to make it as easy on your side as possible. Also, we're going to do it beside the window on ventilation. A parapet wall is going to be a wall on a roof of a commercial building, usually a 4 foot, it can be up to 6 feet. It is a wall that when you're standing on the roof, it just goes up the side of the building and continues and stops. So if you put up a ladder against that and you look over, you could have a 6 foot drop. We can't have that at all, because even if it's 4 foot, getting off of that is just too difficult at some points, especially when getting a person up. This could rely on us having a second short section of a ladder to put over the top of the wall and use on the opposite side. So determining the right size and appropriate size of ground ladder, like we talked about earlier, what area are you trying to reach the building and how high are you trying to reach, you should be able to base it off of that. Removing ladders from the apparatus, there's multiple types. There's either racks on the outside of it, there's racks horizontally in the back, there's racks vertically, and then there's exterior side racks. We have both vertical interior compartment racks, and we have horizontal interior compartment racks at our department. Want to make sure that there is no locks on it when we're pulling it out. Different trucks we have different locking mechanisms to hold the ladder in. So I want to make sure we're familiar with that on all of our apparatuses, so we're not messing around too long with them. So we just went over this, how our ground ladder is mounted to apparatuses. We have interior compartments, we have exterior compartments, we have mechanical exterior racks, and we have horizontal interior compartments. So in our jurisdiction, I talked about, we have mostly interior racks. Carrying ladder safety, avoid obstructions, maintain situational awareness of other firefighters, left with your legs. Look ahead and scan. We want to make sure we're not having tunnel vision in a situation like this. Use appropriate number of firefighters. This is a single fly, 1 firefighter, a 2 fly, 24 foot, 2 firefighter, a 35 foot, 3 fly, 3 firefighter, and a 24 foot extension 4 firefighter. Even though you don't need that, sometimes there's operations where the ground is unlevel, icy circumstances, going down into a ravine, different things where we want to use more firefighters. We want to make sure we're communicating with our team. We want to identify a team leader. If you're comfortable with ladder operations, go ahead and just take team lead on this if you feel like you can do it. We want to make sure we're carrying roof ladders with the hooks in a closed position. And we're going to carry the ladder with the butt end first. This is going to make it so when we get to the building, we can put the butt end down and go straight up. When performing a 1 firefighter carry the forward end of the ladder below eye level. Carrying the forward end at an eye level impedes the carrier's balance, visibility, and increases the risk of butt spurs striking someone else. So when we're carrying this on a one-person method, the balance point is going to be slightly past the center, and the end of the ladder is going to be kind of hanging down in front of you. Does that make sense?
Slightly angle like this.
Yep. Alright, next objective is going to be describe the proper procedures of placing the ground ladder. Alright, situational awareness, we're kind of beating a dead horse with that, but it's something that we have to remember. Situational awareness when we're placing ground ladders is par none, so we're going to make sure we're always being careful about what's around us. What other things that we might consider when placing a ground ladder that we're going to have to look out for? Say that again. Electrical lines, something we haven't touched on yet. When we're placing a ladder, what's something we may consider? Surfaces. The type of surfaces that we're placing on. If a muddy situation, you want to make sure that we're placing the ladder, we're getting up on the first rung, we're giving a little bit of a jolt, we want to place it in the ground. Snowy, icy, concrete, smooth concrete, we're going to make sure we're butting it better, securing it better, so we're not having any slide outs. We talked a little bit about that earlier, placing ladders for ventilation and rescue, making sure we're placing it the right way, so when we get up to the top of the ladder, we're not having to come back down and change anything. Climbing angles, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Normal climbing angle, we're going to touch our toes to the ladder at the bottom, straight arms out, touching our fingers on it. If we're doing rescue operations, we want a slightly more angle, because we're going to be carrying a person down possibly, and we don't want to fall back off of the ladder. So we're going to be a little bit steeper of an angle, a little bit shallower of an angle, I guess, and we're going to be able to slide the patient down the ladder a little easier. Objective 7 is securing ground ladders. We want to make sure we're heeling the ladder properly, having a person on the bottom of the ladder. We can also tie in the ladder if we want. We can tie the bottom rung to something on the building to make it so it doesn't slide out at the base. We want to make sure we're tying the halyard so it'd be a secondary stopper and securing it that way. And sometimes we need to secure the tip to a building. Maybe in high wind circumstances or high ladder placement or rescue operations, we're going to secure the top. When we're heeling a ladder, we want to wear the proper PPE. That's going to be something that we need to remember all the time. Proper PPE, be alert of falling objects and debris. I work with a firefighter that had an axe dropped on his head from a second story, and he was wearing his helmet. But it's easy to accidentally make a mistake, and if you're at the base of a ladder, you should be always looking up to make sure you're prepared for a situation and always knowing what's going on around you. So we can hold from the inside of the ladder. We're going to be basically on the inside, pulling it towards us. It's a little less common, but sometimes on a two-person heeling method on a long ladder, you can have someone on the inside and outside. More commonly, we're going to let the person climb the ladder past us, and then we're going to get on the bottom rung. This is a picture of someone tying in on the second story for a situation where there might be a material that's easily slid on the top, so our ladder's not sliding away from us. Objective 8, we're going to talk about raising and lowering ladders. So, like we talked about earlier, a lot of people lay it flat, raise it up. This is not necessary. We'll talk about it later when we're raising it. Only the butt needs to be on the ground when raising it, and we're going to make sure we're on a smooth, continuous motion when we're doing this. We don't want a bunch of jerking around. Once you start raising it, it needs to be a smooth, consistent process. Single ladder, we can do it from the side. Let's just see on the person on the left, he's putting the foot down in a grassy area and getting that bite. Once he's got the bite, he can roll it up and place it against the building. We have an extension ladder raise. You can see the firefighter on the right is actually butting straight up against the building. He's putting the feet of the ladder up against the building and then he's walking it up to bring it up. That would be our one firefighter method. Two firefighter flat raise, somebody's going to be butting the ladder on the bottom. And we're going to raise straight up. A beam raise is the same, but only it's done on its side. This is sometimes needed if the tip is trying to miss something, if you're inside a building, and you need to be a little bit more careful on where the tip is not hitting. 3 firefighter raise on a larger ladder, maybe 35 foot. We're going to have one person butting the base and 2 people walking this up. You need to remember that if you're butting a ladder in those circumstances, you do not get off the bottom rung ever. You get on it and you stay on it, no matter how you feel. If you get up, there's a huge teeter-totter and it's gonna cause a lot of problems. So later we'll talk about that, but when you're on the butt end of it, get on the first rung, grab the ladder, and let them do the rest. 4-person raises can be used for heavier ladders, not as common where we're doing our class here in our jurisdiction, but it can be used. So what methods can be used to raise the ground ladder that we talked about?
From the side, one person can dig it into the ground to anchor it to raise.
Yep, that's one person main beam raise or a 1-person single fly raise. We're going to go from the side. You can also do this on an extension ladder using a wall as the butting portion with an extension ladder. So we're going to make sure if we're doing a side raise that we're being careful, because at the top we're going to have to do a pivoting motion here. The pivoting motion, we're going to bring it up onto 1 foot, and we're going to turn this. They're doing a 3-person method here. We're probably going to do a 2-person method, and we'll do a 2-person method out in our practicals too. But it won't be too hard with the ladder that we have. So how can a ground ladder be moved once it's already raised and placed in an orientation? And we haven't talked about this a lot yet, but do you have any ideas? So if we get it up, we realize, wait, we have a window 6 feet to the right, that's actually the window that we wanted to. What was that?
You just pivot it.
You can pivot it, yeah. A rolling motion where you're basically taking it, rolling it over and over. You can move a ladder down a wall pretty quickly. Other method is tipping it straight up on end and carrying it. If it's a short enough ladder, you can do that. If it's in the wrong position height-wise, we're going to have to stand it up. Use the halyard rope to change the length of the ladder and then go from there. Climbing a ladder. This needs to be a smooth motion when you're climbing the ladder. Kind of it said earlier, a rhythmic motion. You want to make sure you're moving up the ladder in not a jerky manner that can cause the butt to come out. Sometimes whenever you're going up a ladder too quick or in a weird rhythm, it can make the bottom of the ladder bounce a little bit. You want to make sure you're just being careful with that. Also being careful that you're aware of people underneath you. Eyes forward or looking up at the tip. Occasionally, we're going to keep our arms horizontal. We're going to do a hand-over-hand method on this. We're also going to do a three-point contact in most circumstances where either two legs and one arm or both arms and one leg is always touching the ladder. Securing ourselves to a ladder. A little less common on a ladder like this for us to secure ourselves directly to it, but if we're working off a ladder, we can sometimes with a ladder belt. You see the orange circle, he's hooked in. On the right side, we see a leg lock, a little bit more common. You're going to go up one rung higher than where you need to be, stick your leg through the rung, underneath, back through the rung underneath it, and hook it on to the side beam. This is going to be a work orientation where we're actually going to hook in enough that you can feel comfortable working off the side. There's actually, at work, sometimes people will do it just as a confidence thing, hooking yourself in with both legs, and you can lean off the back of a ladder truck. So you can get a good hook in here and easily work off the top of the ladder. It's a little uncomfortable for some people, especially who are a little bit more fearful of heights, but you can get comfortable doing it. We want to make sure we're not exceeding the rated load, avoiding overloading the ladder. If you have more than one person on the ladder, there better be a pretty good reason for it, and you better be just making sure you're under the load. There's a lot of circumstances where you need a second person, and it's okay to do it, but just be careful, making sure we're limiting the amount of people per fly on the ladder. Use a leg lock or a ladder belt whenever you're working off the ladder. And we want to be careful that we're carrying tools up and down the ladder effectively. How we do that is tools can be held in our hand, like you see the firefighter here on the screen. He's holding a pickaxe with his left hand and putting it on the beam. He's going to use a slide method here where his left hand is sliding up the beam, and he's using his right hand to grab the rungs. Deploying a roof ladder. This is a little bit more advanced. We're not going to do it in our skills today, but you're going to climb up the ladder and have the roof ladder leaning up against the ground ladder. Once you get part way up, you're going to grab it and you're going to carry it up with you. And then once you get to the tip, we're going to place it on, do a leg lock, and we're going to push it up onto the roof of the building. You can kind of see how a roof ladder is used here. Those hooks up at the top will go over the peak and it just sits on the top of the roof. So, assisting a victim down a ladder. We can do this multiple different ways. One of the main ways we're going to do it is where the victim is actually going to face you. If they're alert and oriented, they can even climb down the ladder and you can just be behind them. Basically, their legs are going to be about 1 to 2 rungs in front of you, and you're going to be kind of gripping around them, almost giving them a hug. One is if they're slightly less alert or even not alert, You can keep your right foot up 1 or 2 rungs above the left foot, or the opposite, and have the victim facing you, straddling your knee. So basically their hands will be either over your shoulders or under your armpits. You're going to be grasping around them, and you're going to be taking a step down with your left foot, and then your right foot, and go back and forth. So they're basically sitting on your leg. The other option is a cross the arm method, which is I've done in class before with people much bigger than me, and I find it one of the easier ways. You're going to have a little bit steeper of an angle on this, so you're probably going to be more at an angle like this, and they're actually going to be laying across the top of your arms, and you're going to be holding on to the side beams of the ladder and leaning into them. So a lot of their weight is on the ladder at that point. You're just kind of holding them, and you can go down the ladder a little bit faster. Right here, you can see they're doing a face away method where they're having him on the knee. Works. The only thing I found on this one is legs can slip through the rungs a little easier. The victim's legs can slip through the rungs a little easier. Is they're facing inwards. Patient on the knee. And then on the right side, you see across the arms. A large victim, you can put 2 ladders up and use it that way. And then we're basically always going to just do a child's carry with a child. We're going to do across both arms. So we kind of touched on it a bit, but how can assisting a conscious victim be different than assisting an unconscious victim when you're going down the ladder?
If they're conscious, they may be able to help climb down the ladder.
Yeah. Our goal is really to do as least amount of work as possible, because once we get them down, we're probably going back to work. And if you're wasting a ton of energy on someone who could help you out with a circumstance, we want to use it. So if they can climb down, really we're going to try to climb down, especially if you have multiple victims. That covers the slideshow section of our class. We're going to go ahead and jump into the next section. Does anyone have any questions on this section?
Can you tell me what that word healing means?
The halyard or the... Oh, I see. You're basically butting the lap.
Oh, okay. Alright, just reversing the step.
Yep. Any other questions? Alright. If not, we'll take just a couple minute break. I'm going to kind of set this up a little different in here so we can practice a couple things before we go out. And go from there. So we'll take a short break. All right, we'll go ahead and start back up. For this portion of the class, we're going to have the students go ahead and take their written test. Before you take the test, we'll write your name up on top. And does anyone have any questions before we start this test? All right, if not, we'll go ahead and start. What was that? The 12, 15, 25. So I'll go ahead and give you guys about 5 to 7 minutes to do it. It's just a 10-question test, so we'll go ahead and give you that. portion, we're going to talk about our practical skills. Alright, ground ladder operations in FPA 1001 through 2019. We see skill sheet 20 starting out 2 firefighters ladder carry and raise with a 24-foot extension ladder. This is a pass-fail test, so we're going to talk about it. If you guys have any questions, we'll go over it, and then we're going to go out, we're going to get in our proper protective suits, and we're going to perform these tasks. So, task 1 on the firefighter NFPA 1001 skill sheet number 20 is the low shoulder method. This will be the start to your ladder, carry and raise. You're going to 1, visually inspect the work area for solid level footing and for overhead electrical wire and obstruction. We want to make sure we're verbalizing this. I'm looking for level footing and overhead electrical obstructions. Stand at a lifting point near the end of the ladder facing the butt. So we're going to have someone on the tip of the ladder, someone on the butt of the ladder. Kneeling beside the ladder, just so we can kind of see this. This is not the ladder that we're using, but it is the ladder just for the purpose of it. Kneeling beside the ladder, we're going to grab the opposite knee. We're going to usually cross, and we're going to put the ladder up on it. This is the start for our ladder raise. Placing the ladder on the beam. Communicate with each other what method of carrying to use when lifting the ladder. Position the ladder on the shoulder. You can do 1 or 2 methods. You can either A, count together, stand up, placing it on one shoulder, or facing one end. I'm going to do it. You're both going to count. You're going to stand up, placing it on the opposite shoulder. After lifting the ladder, you guys are going to show that you can carry the ladder towards an objective, maintaining complete control of the ladder. Using the above carrying method, raise and lower the ladder from one of the following 2 methods. You can either do a beam method. This would be raising the ladder when it's up on its side. You're going to verbalize. I'm visually inspecting the work area for solid level footing, overhead electrical wires, and obstructions. The firefighter closest to the butt, we should be facing the butt of the ladder. Lowers 1 spur down on its side. On the butt end to the ground, approximately 1/4 the usable height from the building. So we're going to make sure that in this circumstance, we're going to make sure we're probably about 6 feet out. We're going to make sure we're making, 4 to 6 feet out. We're making it so when we come up, we're at a decent angle. Firefighter closest to the tip, this will be the person raising the ladder. Firefighter closest to the tip, transition the ladder bottom beam to the shoulder. They're going to go from this position up to their shoulder. Firefighter at the butt end places 1 foot on the lower beam of the ladder. This would be the start of the butting process. Now I'm going to show you this, all this, so it's easier for you to see. Firefighter at the butt end grasps the beams of the ladder with hands. Firefighter at butt end grasps the upper beams with hands apart and extends back as a counterbalance. So this is whenever he's going to be at the butt, he's on his knees, he can either push a knee or a foot right here as a balance. He's going to be grabbing the beams of the ladder, leaning back as a weight balance. Most of your weight should be on your left foot here, and you should be helping kind of pull up and lean back as a counterbalance. Firefighter at the tip advances down the ladder towards the butt end until the ladder is vertical. So he's going to walk down the ladder, keep on going down and down, and the ladder coming up. Both firefighters stand on opposite sides of the ladder, and it is fully straight up at this point. We're going to rotate the ladder with that pivoting method we talked about earlier. Rotate the ladder until both beams are parallel with the building and the fly section is in the appropriate position. Firefighter next to the building unties and grasps the halyard and extends the fly section to the desired elevation. Engaging the ladder locks, place the ladder against the building while maintaining ladder balance. While supporting the ladder against the building, adjust the ladder to an appropriate climbing angle. Secure the halyard, which is the rope, and after we do that, we're going to lower the ladder, reversing the raising procedures. Secondary method is going to be a flat method. So rather than doing the beam method, you can also choose to do the flat method. You're going to verbally say, we're looking over the area for solid level footing and overhead electrical wires and obstacles. Both firefighters place the ladder flat on the ground with the butt end perpendicular to and approximately 1/4 the usable height from the building. Firefighter closest to the tip lifts the tip of the ladder and positions underneath it. So it's going to be flat like this, the building's going to be over there. This will take it, start like this. At this point, firefighter at the butt, the firefighter at the butt is going to heel the ladder. They're going to step on the bottom rung, and they're going to grab the ladder. And actually, while we're doing it, Michaela, I'm going to stand up there. Right now, there's no reason to heel it, because there's no need. At this point, once you get to here, they're going to step on the bottom rung, and you grab the ladder up like 3 rungs. Like a push-up position.
Oh, like put pressure on it?
Step on it, yep, all your weight on it. Keep on going.
All the way?
Yeah, and grab the rung. At this point, they cannot move at all. There's nothing happening. They're the only thing stopping the ladder right now. So don't ever step off of the ladder. Once you're straight up, they can step off the ladder. Anything before that is going to flip. Especially, this is super simple with this ladder. If you have a 35-foot ladder that's halfway, it's probably going to be about 20 feet. Because the second fly isn't completely flat, the first fly.
And what wrong?
Well, first one. Some people stick their feet on the field. No, you're saying with your feet.
Like
Yeah,
this
first
one,
one.
I should put on. Or I
Yeah, one foot on just for stability, but you don't need to be putting weight on it. Just if like something were happening, all of us are starting to fall, you would hop back on. You got it. Yeah. Because you're the weight here. Like if I like go to this, like I'm holding on to it. Like this is super light. Once it gets down to here, then you can step off. And you're gonna place it back there. So that's the healing method. There. But back to it. The firefighter at the butt end crouches, grabs a convenient rung of the beam with both hands and leans backwards. So on a bigger ladder, you're probably going to be standing on this, grabbing here, and you're going to be leaning back as far as possible to help with a little bit extra weight. The firefighter advances down the ladder using a hand-over-hand method or sliding hands down and beam towards the butt end. Hand-over-hand method is what we're going to be using today. You're going to be going rung to rung. Both firefighters will be standing on opposite sides of the ladder when it's vertical. Rotate the ladder if needed till both beams are parallel with the building and the fly section is in the appropriate position. So on our flies, on this one, it's an aluminum ladder. Which side should the top fly be on? The inside or the outside? Outside. Firefighter next to the building unties, grasps the halyard, and extends the fly sections to the desired elevation. Engage the ladder. Make sure you engage the ladder's locks on the pause and place the ladder against the building while maintaining balance. While supporting the ladder against the building, adjust the ladder to the appropriate climbing angle. Secure the halyard. Lower the ladder, reversing the raising procedure. So each one of you guys will do this. So all of you will take one turn at the butt of the ladder and one turn at the tip of the ladder. We're going to stand up, walk it out into the front patio, walk it back in, and raise it up onto the loft. After that, we move on to skill sheet 24. This one is simply inspecting the ladder. We're not going to actually thoroughly clean and rinse and dry a ladder. We're just going to verbalize everything that we're not going to do tonight. So you're going to actually say, I'm going to inspect this for cleanliness. I'm going to thoroughly clean it with a soft bristle brush and mild detergent. Rinsing and drying the ladder appropriately. At that point, you're going to say, I am checking for signs of damage, cracks, splintering, warping, and really, at this point, you don't have to word for word say these ones. You're looking for just things that you can remember. As long as you get enough of them, you're going to pass. Bending, dents, discolorations, loose rungs, anything. After that, you're actually going to look and test a rung. Grab the rung, you're going to actually go like this and act like you're spinning it to see if it's loose. Test the rungs for tightness by twisting them while checking for bent rungs or beams. Mark defects per local procedure. You're going to check the halyard for frays, cuts, and bunching. That's going to be the rope on the ladder. You're going to check the halyard for snugness and freedom of movement. You're going to check the heat sensor. You're going to check all moving parts. You're going to verbalize. I'm going to lubricate parts as needed using recommended lubricants. You're going to tag and remove ladders from service for any conditions that cannot be corrected at the current time and make proper notifications. Record that you've cleaned, inspected, and the maintenance is good per your local SOPs. So the easiest way to do this is you're going to start at the tip and work your way all the way down. Don't jump around. You're going to walk in. Every skill test starts with the same thing. I have the appropriate PPE on, just verbalize it. I'm looking over the ladder as a whole, making sure there's no damage on it. For cleaning purposes, I'm going to use a soft bristle brush and a mild detergent and clean this appropriately. I'm going to rinse and dry it appropriately. Starting at the tip. I'm seeing that the tips are free of damage. I'm going to grab a rum. The rum here is solid without movement. I'm going to look over the rivets. These are the rivets on this. Some have different, some have bolts. Okay, I've made my way down the ladder. All the rivets are good. Moving down to the rails here. The fly section is inside the rails and the rails are free of damage. Right here, there's going to be a pulley on the ladder outside. That's the halyard pulley. You're just going to spin it with your finger just a tiny bit. Halyard pulley is secured and the halyard rope looks like it's free of all defects to my knowledge. I'm going to look around the inside of the beam for a heat sensor. Once I find the heat sensor, the color has not changed, so this is good. While I'm making my way down the ladder, I'm just going to double check there's no warps, dents, splintering, discoloration, bends, or any problems. All moving parts of this ladder look like they work appropriately. I'm going to make my way down to the button. The end of your halyard rope will be tied off. I see that it's tied off properly. There's no fraying or damage to the end of my halyard. The butt of the ladder looks appropriate. There's no damage that I'm seeing. At this point, the ladder is free of defects, it is clean, and anything I find will be appropriately written down per SOGs, and I will submit it immediately and pull it out of service if what I find is not able to be fixed at this point. At this point in your testing, your evaluator will give you one last chance by asking if there's anything you would like to add or remove from this testing. Take your time in this time, look around. They won't always say that. They don't have to. If they do, it usually means you missed something. So just, if you need to repeat it or you need to do whatever, you do it. Alrighty. We will go ahead and I'll just have you guys go through it just really quick on here, and then we'll actually do the test outside really quick. So, on the first one, Mom and Michaela, you want to come over here and we'll do a ladder raise. So, we'll just start over here on the other side. So, in this circumstance, one of you guys will be doing the test, the other one will be able to help. So in this case, Michaela's at the tip, Mom's at the butt, and Michaela will be being tested here. Before you do this test, and this will be the carry and raise, you start out by, do you remember what you say?
Making sure that
Level surface.
level surface.
And it doesn't have to be word for word. I'm looking to make sure the ground is level. I'm not on a slippery surface. I'm being careful. There's no overhead wires, and I'm just looking around for instructions. And you can say it as nonchalantly as possible. So, standing at the lifting point of the ladder near the tip of the ladder, you're going to squat down on a knee. You will do that with her. You'll grab the opposite beam, lift it towards you, up on you. At this point, you're going to grasp the ladder on the beam and communicate with each other what method you plan on doing. At this point, you guys are facing towards the feet, so you're going to lift straight up to your shoulder, and you're going to walk that way when you do it. We're just going to go ahead and do the flat method because I think it's an easier method. So, at this point, you guys are going to grab it. Michaela's going to count On 3, 1, 2, 3. You'll stand up, put it on your shoulder.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. At this point, you're going to walk to the designated area, which is right there at this point, and you're going to do the opposite. Okay, we're going to lower on 3.
1, 2, 3.
Lower back down your knee, and you're going to lay the ladder flat. Now that that's done, you'll say, I'm going to use the flat raise method.
We use the flat raise method.
Mom will go to the end. Michaela will repeat. I'm making sure the ground's level.
Ground is level and free of electrical cords and other obstructions.
Yes. Both firefighters place the ladder in the designated area. Just try to be about 4 to 5 feet away from the wall. So the butt of it should be about 4 to 5 feet away from the wall. The firefighter closest to the tip picks up the tip. And the firefighter lifts the ladder. And on a ladder like this, really should only use the one leg out. On a long ladder, you need to stand. But going straight up. Alright, at that point, you show control of the ladder when it's at a straight up angle. The firefighter next to the building will untie and grasp the halyard. So right here is going to be a rope tied. You're going to untie it. We're not going to need to extend the ladder out here, but just verbalize that. I'm untying the halyard and I'm extending it to the appropriate length. At this point, it's the appropriate length for our conditions. I'm retying the halyard. So you'll actually verbalize that for her. My partner's untying the halyard and we're raising it to the appropriate length and we're retying the halyard. Making sure that what? Everything is locked. The paws are in the right position and the halyard is tied. At this point, you're going to actually put it against the wall. So at this point, you'll put a foot on here and you'll say we're lowering against the wall. You'll put your arms straight, lean back, and mom will lower back up against the wall, which is right there. Okay. Then let go. Put it up against the wall. Now checking for the right positioning, you're going to stick your toes underneath the bottom rung. So about your toes right here. And you're going to stick your arms straight through your shoulders, straight out. So the tip of it needs to be about here. So put your toes back. So whenever this is at the right angle, this rung should be touching. So you both are going to grab one side of each of this. Yeah. Michaela over here, mom over here. With one hand high and one hand low, looking, both of you can look away or towards the building, either way. Well, if that means it, you go looking towards it. You'll lift up the butt of it, and you can just stick your hands underneath it. Just lift up the butt and pull it out. Keep on going. Alright, now let it out. Now you're going to do that deeper in. Because this is going down the wall, and that's going out. So now go back and test it. Because I didn't do it. Okay, so you got it right here. Okay, so. Mom's going to come back here. She's going to raise it up. She's going to put her foot back on it, and then you're going to lower it down with your hand over something like that. So you start with it. Yep. You can do either one that feels more natural to you. And once it's really up here, you're over 2/3 the way up. You can just kind of support it. Once it's down, I'll say, is there anything you think you missed or you would like to add or subtract from your testing? Okay. After that, you guys will switch places, and then Dad will come out and do one to the top, and one of you guys can be his partner. And then we'll be done with that. After that, we'll close the garage door and we'll go over the inspection. Dad, do you want to go through the inspection in here just so we all feel comfortable with it? We'll just Yeah, this is practice. Everything is verbal that you can't do, so we're not actually gonna wash it. When we walk up though, it's just kind of an initial assessment when we walk up. I'm going to clean, rinse, and dry appropriately.
Approach.
Yeah, and really, I would say that in it, but if you miss it, it's not a lost point.
I check the rungs. Check the bolts or the rivets.
And then, it's hard to figure out right now because there's usually howling loop right there.
Okay. Check the pulleys that's been. I check the rope to where there's no frays.
The rails.
Yeah. Where do I check on the rails?
Just make sure the rails are appropriate. So sometimes there'll be like a bent piece here, and this is bent up. Just making sure it's inside the rails and works appropriately. You can just
I'm looking for any bend or wear or discoloring on any of the dents, wood rot.
Yep. There's a heat sensor when you get to the bottom.
The heat sensor, I had a question.
Yes.
Once it turns, it stays that color.
Yes.
Until you replace it.
Yeah, it's been peeled off and replaced.
You check the butt of it. The hooks.
If there's hooks, yep, you gotta
If
fix it.
it's a roof, if it's a roof one.
And
What I missed.
other than that, whenever you're up here at the top, just start with the sensors to make sure you don't forget. Other than that, you said it later on, it's just easier to forget. You hit basically everything. One other thing is I'm just checking all moving parts, and I'm gonna lubricate as needed.
And if there's any problem, I take it out of service, record it.
Until, yeah, and notify the proper people. Alrighty. And then at the end, for the last note, you just say, I'm going to record that I cleaned, inspected, and had maintenance on this. So, do you guys feel comfortable with this one? Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll go outside. I'm gonna move, if you guys just wanna take a break for a second, I'm gonna move the camera out to our bay, and we're going to do our testing out there.
Put hooks on.
I have the exam sheets and we're gonna move out to our practical testing area for the test this time. Students just got on their proper PPE. We're wearing bunker pants, jackets, steel toe boots, gloves, helmet, and eye protection. All right, we're out in the training bay. We're gonna be doing skill sheet number 20 of the NFPA 1001 through 2019 ground ladders. This will be the 2 firefighter ladder carry and raise of a 24-foot extension ladder. Michaela will be our first student to do it. Do you have any questions before this starts?
No.
All right, go ahead and start.
Okay, I'm wearing my proper PPE. I'm checking for surfaces to make sure it's level and there's no overhead electrical wire or any other obstructions. We're gonna begin by kneeling aside the ladder, reaching across and lifting to the side, then lifting on 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this side a little bit. Okay. And 1, 2, 3. Lift this side up. Okay, I'm going to untie my halyard and readjust the flies if needed and resecure my halyard. Okay, landing just right around where the roof ends. I'm going to check my distance and it's good. Okay. Got it. And walking it back down.
Are you done with your testing?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to change or remove or add before the final I test your grade?
No.
All right. You've passed the 2 firefighter ladder carry and raise portion of the practical. Next practical skill is skill sheet 24 of ground ladders. In this, the objective is for you to properly and appropriately evaluate, clean, and do an inspection of a ground ladder. Do you have any questions before we start?
No.
Alrighty, go ahead and start your test.
Okay, wearing my proper PPE, I'm going to first clean the ladder with soft bristle brush and mild detergent. Rinse and dry. Then I'm going to start at the tip of the ladder, make sure it's secure. Then I'm going to test each rung, make sure nothing is loose. I'm going to check the rails for any dents or cracks or any malformations. I'm going to check my pulley, it's secure. And check my halyard rope all the way down. Each rung is good. I'm going to check for cracks, splinting, discoloration, any warping, dents, any damages. Check all moving parts. if any moving parts need to be lubricated appropriately.
Alright, are you done with your test?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to add or subtract? Alright, you passed the inspection of the ground ladder. Set your papers here and we'll sign them here in a bit. I'll have you swapping to the front of the ladder. Alright. Our next student's going to do skill sheet number 20, the 2 firefighter ladder carry and raise with a 24-foot extension ladder. Is there any questions you have before doing the test? Alrighty, you can go ahead and start your test.
Okay, I'm looking at the ground for level and solid surfaces, and we're gonna do the kneel on this side. Oh, I'm wearing my PPE. Oh, parallels. Okay, I have my PPE on, and I'm ready to go. There's solid ground, no overhead obstructions or power lines, and I'm ready to do the lift. So we're going to kneel beside the ladder, reach across the ladder towards us. On 3, we're going to raise. 1, 2, 3. Okay. On 3, we're going to lower. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to do a flat lift. Start on this end. My partner is going to do it on the other. Okay, we're going to take this out. And we're going to loosen it up on the halyard and raise it to the appropriate level. Let's raise it to the appropriate level. We're going to tie it back off. Okay, so now we're going to put that back. Alright, back down.
Alright, are you done with your test?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to change, subtract, or add from your test? Alright, you passed the 2 firefighter carry and raise of a ground ladder. The student will continue to skill sheet 24 for cleaning, inspecting, and maintaining a ground ladder. Do you have any questions before we start the test? Alright, start up at that end, and give me 1 second. You start up at that end, and start whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm going to have my appropriate PPE on, and I'm going to clean the entire ladder with soft brush and a mild detergent. Then I'm going to go down front, start at the tip of the ladder, check to make sure there aren't any loose parts. I'm going to be looking at the ladder for any damage, discoloration, splintering, warping, anything that would show damage to it. I'm going to go to the back of the ladder and check everything for that. Then I'm going to go back and check the rungs of the ladder. I'm going to twist them to see if anything is loose. I'm going to check the pulley to make sure that it's freely moving and well secured. I'm going to check the rope on the halyard that it is not frayed or torn in any way. parts, all moving parts and lubricating any of those, including the butt. And I'm looking for a heat sensor. I'm checking to make sure it's not discolored and that it is, it looks normal. And I think that's it.
Alrighty. You're done with your test?
Oh, and when I'm all finished, I'm going to, if there's any defects, I'm going to tag it, pull it out of service, and notify supervisor according to my SOP. And also I'm going to log the maintenance, the cleaning and maintenance and inspection in the appropriate log.
Alright, is there anything else you'd like to add or subtract?
I don't think so.
Alright, you've passed skill sheet 24.
Very generous.
Alright, we're gonna have our student now switch over gear, and then we'll come back with our final student and do the last practical, and then that'll be the conclusion of the class. It's kind of hard to get out of.
This is a very serious micro.
Yeah. Here, before you do that, pull this down over the top of it first.
Oh,
It just makes it easier to get
makes
back.
it easier to get back in, okay.
All right. We're gonna start out with skill sheet 20. This is the firefighter, 2 firefighter carry and raise. You'll be on the tip. Do you have any questions before we start this?
Do I need to announce I have the proper PPE on if it's obvious?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, you can start the exam.
All right, I have the proper PPE equipment on. I'm gonna do a 2-man carry. I'm gonna squat down, kneel down, reach across, pull it up, reach underneath it. On 3, we'll raise it after I look for the surrounding area, the flat ground, electrical wires, anything that's intruding on our raise. 1, 2, 3. Walk forward, place it where it needs to be, and you need to, that's fine. And then we're coming back down on 1, 2, 3. Put it down. I get on the tip, she gets on the butt. Go to raise it. Once it's standing straight up, I raise it with the halyard rope to the appropriate height. I butt it. She takes it back to the back. It's at the appropriate height for rescue at the bottom of the seal of a window or edge. And it's coming back down. I butt it. She pushes it out to me. As it stands up, she butts it. I come down 1 rating at a time. Once it gets to my shoulder, she can step off. And we're down.
Are you done with your test?
Yes,
Is there anything you'd like to add or subtract?
I hope not.
Alrighty, you passed the skill sheet 20. Alright, skill sheet 24. Student inspects, cleans, and maintains a ground ladder. Do you have any questions on this before we start?
Don't believe so.
Alright, go ahead and start when you're ready.
I approach the ladder, I clean it with a soft brush, mild detergent. Check the tips of it, check each one of the rungs, make sure that they are secure. Check the railing for any dents, any discoloration. If it's wooden, any wood rot. Check the moving parts on the halyard, the pulley. Make sure the rope is not frayed or worn. I check the heat, the sensor for any evidence of heat for that. More moving parts on this, and the butt of it, more moving parts. Make sure they're all lubricated. Any findings I have, I record them. Anything that's wrong, I report them to the proper people. Write it down. Look for dents. I think that's all.
Alright, is there anything you'd like to add, subtract?
Nope.
Alright, you've passed skill sheet 24. You can go ahead and You guys can take off your gear. Actually, before we take off our gear, we'll just come over here in the camera view. So, just to finish up the class, we're going to do some cleanup. We're going to go ahead and put up our PPE, making sure it's cleaned and stored appropriately. We're going to make sure our ladders are stored appropriately, cleaned, and a good maintenance log put on it. That covers the objectives of this ladder class. We covered basic ladder operations, basic ladder understanding, basic ladder use, along with cleaning and maintenance. Is there anything you guys have? Anything? You guys any questions or comments? Alrighty. Well, you guys are good to take off your gear, and we'll meet back inside. This covers my class for my Instructor 1 final exam video. I hope this covers all the information needed for ladder operations in a classroom setting and a practical hands-on skills. That's the conclusion of my class.